Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're blasting off into the wild and psychedelic world of Barbarella from 1968. This sci-fi cult classic starring Jane Fonda as the fearless space adventurer is packed with over-the-top visuals, groovy costumes, and a charm that's pure 60s. But how much do you really know about this cosmic adventure? From its bold production choices to behind-the-scenes surprises, we're uncovering the fascinating stories that shaped this one-of-a-kind film. So buckle up and let's explore 20 things you never knew about Barbarella. The movie is based on Jean-Claude Forest's 1964 graphic novel Barbarella, though the term graphic novel wasn't widely used at the time. Compiling a series of comic strip serials he had originally created for the French V magazine. The English language edition caused a minor stir in the US, where it was denounced as pornographic, despite containing content that seems remarkably tame by today's standards. Yet whether in spite of the controversy or because of it, the book became a publishing sensation. Film marked a groundbreaking moment in the history of science fiction cinema by being the first feature film adaptation of a comic book hero, setting it apart from earlier iconic figures in the genre like Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. Prior to Barbarella, these male-dominated characters had only been seen in serialized formats, typically as short films or episodic series. Director Roger Vadim initially offered the role to his And God Created Woman star and former wife, Brigitte Bardot, but perhaps unsurprisingly she declined. Sophia Loren also passed on the part, prompting Vadim to turn to his then-wife Jane Fonda. At the time, Fonda, still regarded as Hollywood royalty as the daughter of Henry Fonda and years away from her Annoy Jane era, was a highly desirable choice. Producer Dino De Laurentiis, recognizing her star power, was more than happy to cast Vadim's third wife in the all-important lead role. Italian actor Antonio Sabato was initially cast as Dildano, and set photos exist showing him in a scene with Jane Fonda. However, his performance was considered too serious for the role, leading to his replacement by David Hemmings, who brought a more comedic tone to the character. Common misconception about Barbarella is that it was a low-budget production. A DVD release of the 1978 film Star Crash featured a back cover blurb describing it as Star Wars on a Barbarella budget. However, Barbarella cost up to $9 million in 1967, while Star Wars had a budget of $11 million in 1977. So counting for inflation, Barbarella could have cost as much as, if not more than, Star Wars. The script went through numerous hands before receiving a final polish from renowned 1960s script doctor Terry Southern. While the finished film has a distinctly European sensibility, Southern's influence is evident throughout the dialogue. The special effects in Barbarella are highly stylized and very much of their time. For the opening scene in which Barbarella performs a zero-gravity striptease, the airlock set was flipped on its end with the camera positioned above. A sheet of plexiglass was placed in the middle and Jane Fonda rolled around on it, shedding various parts of her spacesuit. The result is surprisingly successful, although recent high-definition remasters of the film don't do the scene any favours, as they accentuate slight reflections in the glass. If you look closely, you can spot her reflection as she removes her gloves. For the effects of the Mathmos, the sentient swamp surrounding the city of Sogo, pillared molten wax was used to great effect. This was a popular technology in the psychedelic 1960s, especially after the invention of the lava lamp in 1963 by Edward Craven Walker. In fact, in 1992, Craven Walker's original company, Crestworth, was renamed Mathmos in honor of the creature from Barbarella. In the original comic, Barbarella was not a secret agent, but an outlaw. The movie omits several of her adventures on Lithium, including a confrontation with an earlier villainess named the Gorgon, whose face transformed into a replica of anyone who looked at her. Additionally, her spaceship remains unrepaired, leaving her stranded on Lithium for the duration of the first comic album. Two notable sequences were also missing from the film version. The first, involving Barbarella's encounter with the captured mole machine, a bizarre subterranean device, was removed from the film entirely. Similarly, the subplot featuring a robot that engages in sexual relations with Barbarella, belonging to a deceased rebel, was also excluded. Jean-Claude Forest, the creator, was deeply involved in the film's visual production, particularly in the costume design. While the unique look of the film's costumes was primarily the work of renowned costume designer Jacques Fontaret, based on sketches by Forest, Paco Rabanne is also credited. It's unclear exactly what Rabanne contributed to the finished product, but as a prominent internationally known fashion designer in the 60s, De Laurentiis wasn't able to leave him off the credits, even if his role was relatively minor. After watching, please check out our video looking into the life and career of the controversial Jane Fonda on our new channel, Rocky Goes to Hollywood. There's a link in the description below and one at the end of this video. Thanks for your support, it's really appreciated. The dialogue is noticeably dubbed in post-production. This was often due to the trans-European cast's limited English proficiency or heavy accents. In other instances, it's less obvious why the dialogue was re-recorded by a different actor. Anita Pallenberg, who plays the Black Queen, was an Italian actress and model, who appeared in a number of films subsequent to this using her own voice. But she was overdubbed by British actress Joan Greenwood. Also, Marcel Marceau's lines were re-recorded by actor Robert Wrighty. It was a standard practice of the time and can also be heard in the early James Bond films, where foreign actors were often redubbed. There exists a fascinating piece of Barbarella's history that never made it into the final cut of the film. Lobby card stills and set photographs document a seduction scene between Barbarella and the Black Queen, set on a bed. Despite the existence of these images, this particular scene has never been included in any official print of the movie. The character of the missing scientist, Dr. Duran Duran, is not only a pivotal figure in the film's plot, but also famously served as the inspiration for the name of the iconic 1980s pop band, Duran Duran. They even named their 1997 comeback single Electric Barbarella. In 1999, pop duo Alicia's Attic released a single titled Barbarella, comparing the ultra-modern world of the late 90s to that of the titular heroine. Meanwhile, New York art rockers Atomic Swindlers drew inspiration from the film for their 2004 album, Coming Out Electric. Also, a short-lived Dutch dance music trio called Barbarella released 2 albums in the early 90s. Now, I cannot say this word, so I'm going to put it on the screen. Dildano's Password is the name of an actual village in Wales, United Kingdom. Unsurprisingly, it holds the record for the longest place name in the UK. Zogo, the sinister city that Barbarella travels to in the film, is a deliberate nod to the biblical cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. In the Bible, these cities were infamous for their decadence and sinful behavior, ultimately being destroyed by divine wrath as a result of their immorality. In Barbarella, the city serves as a dystopian, hedonistic place where excess pleasure and depravity run rampant, making the connection to the biblical cities both fitting and intentional. Also, very much of its time was the film's score. Initially, De Laurentiis had approached the French avant-garde composer and musician Michael Magna to create the score, but he declined. He eventually turned to Bob Crewe, the American manager and music producer, known for his work with acts like Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Crewe enlisted songwriter Charles Fox to collaborate on the project, and together they created the soundtrack, which features vocals by the group The Glitter House. David Gilmour, best known as the legendary guitarist of Pink Floyd, contributed his talents to Barbarella. He was one of the session musicians who performed the film's original score. At the time, Gilmour was still in the early stages of his musical career, and his involvement in the soundtrack marked one of his first professional music credits. The identity of the voice behind Barbarella's onboard computer remains an enduring mystery. Some have suggested it bears a resemblance to the distinctive tones of actor Kenneth Williams, while others have speculated that Vincent Price might have been involved. However, despite the theories, the true voice actor has never been confirmed, leaving fans with nothing more than speculation. A sequel to Barbarella was first planned in 1968 under the working title Barbarella Goes Down, featuring undersea adventures. In 1990, producer Dino De Laurentiis approached writer Terry Southern about a low-budget sequel, possibly starring Jane Fonda's daughter. Then, in the 2000s, Robert Rodriguez developed a reboot with Rose McGowan as Barbarella, but the project stalled when the budget got too high. There is now a remake underway at Sony Pictures, with Sydney Sweeney set to star and Edgar Wright, whose credits include the films Shaun of the Dead and Baby Driver, set to direct. No release date has been announced yet, though. And there you have it, folks. Don't forget to check out our video of 15 things you need to know about Jane Fonda on our new channel, Rocky Goes to Hollywood. If you enjoyed this video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.